to events rather than drives events. Would that be a fair assessment of Barack Obama?
No, I don't think so. First of all, I'll just say I thought it was a very good debate today. I thought the president dominated throughout. I think that the kind of leadership he's shown on the world stage is the type of leadership he showed tonight. Look, this is a man, Barack Obama, who's stood up for our values around the world. He's protected Americans around the world. He's stood up for our allies around the world. And for those who would do America harm, he's gone after them relentlessly. So, I mean, if you think about it, he didn't only inherit the worst economic situation in the United States since the Great Depression, but the biggest and most challenging national security inheritance since World War II. He had to manage 2 wars, the campaign against al-Qaeda, not to mention emerging threats like Iran, the Arab Spring, et cetera. And I think he's done it nimbly, pragmatically, and in a way that has gained the respect of not only the American people, but our allies around the world.
He won the Nobel Peace Prize for the optimism that he brought into the office. Should they be asking for it back? Because is America really more respected now than it was 4 years ago? Didn't the raising of those expectations just leave people more disappointed?
Well, I think unquestionably U.S. leadership is back in a big way. I mean, I think we have to remember, under George W. Bush, the United States went into the most disastrous foreign policy mistake, at least in modern U.S. history, which was the war in Iraq, which destroyed our credibility in the region. It destroyed our relationships with our allies. It left America's reputation in the world in tatters. This is a president who campaigned on ending that war responsibly, on going after al-Qaeda, on refocusing on Afghanistan and then transitioning the effort there. He's put unprecedented pressure on Iran. He stood up for our closest allies in the region like Israel. He's supported freedom in the streets of Tahrir Square and elsewhere during the Arab Spring. I think that certainly respect for the United States in the region and the world is much higher than it was 4 years ago.
Really, but the reputation he has with the Israelis is perhaps at an all-time low. They don't see him as a man that they can do business with. If they did, then why haven't we moved towards a peace deal in Palestine?
I think you need to talk to more Israelis. When I ran Obama's Middle East office at the Pentagon, I traveled to Israel 13 times. There's not been a president in the history of the United States that's done more for Israel's security than Barack Obama. More security assistance, unprecedented military and intelligence cooperation, standing up for Israel at the United Nations. And if you ask Israeli leaders, President Peres, Ehud Barak, Minister of Defense, they will tell you that there's never been a closer relationship with any president than with Barack Obama. And at the same time, he is committed to the peace process. And he's going to continue to be committed to the peace process. And here is actually an area where I think Mitt Romney's a recent convert, frankly. He traveled to Israel in July, didn't say anything about a two-state solution, didn't mention the word peace process. In the secret video of fundraiser in May, he said that he didn't believe in the peace process, didn't think it was possible. And then suddenly he discovered it a week ago, and he repeated it tonight. But it's hard to believe the guy's heart is in it. So look, this is a president who's committed to peace. And when he wins re-election, he'll continue to be committed to peace.
And what's going to happen with Iran? Because as they say, the Republicans say, the Iranians are now 4 years closer to a nuclear weapon.
Yeah, that's actually factually inaccurate. They have accumulated a greater stockpile of low-enriched uranium, but if you think of all the components that are necessary to construct a nuclear weapon, it would take them about as long to do so today as was the case 4 years ago.
But you'll accept, Colin, that there is a feeling among the American public that the Iranians are still, even since Jimmy Carter's days, still the biggest threat to America. So when you say that they're building a nuclear bomb, Americans
first of all, they're
not
building a nuclear bomb. They're building up the capability to, at some point, be able to produce one if their leadership decides to do so. A decision that our intelligence community says they have not made yet. I think the bigger picture is that when this president took office, Iran was ascendant, and the Americans were isolated on this issue because the previous Republican administration was unwilling to talk to them. And this president turned that around. And now he built a huge coalition to isolate Iran diplomatically. They're more isolated than they've ever been. Unprecedented economic sanctions that are crippling their economy and will force them back to the table to negotiating in good faith. And now it's we who are with the rest of the world and Iran who is on an island by itself. So to my mind, that's leadership.
Paul, a spirited defence of your man. Thank you very much indeed for joining us live here on Al Jazeera.
Yeah.
Thank you very much indeed. And so we'll continue to chase the people here in the spin room. In fact, we're going to go straight on as we joined here by Jane Harman, who's a former House member, served on the House Intelligence Committee. Was Barack Obama at his forceful best tonight, or was that a performance that leaves you wanting more?
I thought it was an excellent debate by both candidates. And what's interesting is 40% of the press, including you, is international press here. And 30 countries are trying to emulate what went on tonight and conduct candidate debates. So we were doing a civics lesson for the world. And I think in that, this debate, unlike prior debates, was very successful. I thought both candidates were good. I thought President Obama's close was better. I'm a fan of President Obama's foreign policy, and I thought it was reassuring when Governor Romney agreed with President Obama a number of times. They also had their differences, especially with respect to how to rebuild the economy, which both agreed is part of a strong defense. So the conversation and the quality of the conversation impressed me very much.
But what parts of his policy do you like? Because it seems to those watching from the outside that he largely reacts to what's happening rather than drives the policy, with perhaps the exception of Iran.
Well, I think the challenge in the next administration, whoever wins this election, is to project a narrative of what the United States stands for that is much clearer to the people of America and the people around the world.
Is that an acceptance then that Barack Obama has failed to do that?
I think a lot of our foreign policy in the last few years has been tactical rather than strategic. A vision was laid out in Cairo early in the administration. Some didn't like it. I thought it was quite impressive. But a lot of the actions have been driven by events. That's always going to happen. I mean, one of the things that both of them said is there will be events that happen that neither has anticipated. And you have to measure your candidate by how steady and prepared they are. I thought that President Obama's performance tonight was very prepared and very steady. I also thought that Governor Romney seems to have moderated many of his positions and, to my surprise, stated that he agreed with President Obama in many of his positions.
Jane Harman, I could speak to you for a lot longer, but we've got a lot to get through in the next half hour. Thank you very much indeed for joining us live here on Al Jazeera. There you go, 2 for 1.